Photographer of the Year, let's hear it for Dan Shelley, Shellda Photos.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Shellda podcast, where today I am joined by, in my book, the greatest of all time to step on the field, Chris Lasoya. Like, you changed the game in so many different ways. How are you?
Man, I'm good, bro. It's I love that intro. It looks good on you, man. I love it. I like it a lot, and congratulations on the show. Congratulations on all your accomplishments lately. I mean, you're crushing it out there. And I've been meaning to get on here for a while, so I finally got some time for you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's been so cool, like, over the past few months to, one, just get to meet you and have small conversations at the events and build a relationship, right? Like, we see each other sometimes 4 or 5 times a year, and you know this from your career, and those micro conversations, like, they add up to like just a beautiful relationship over the time.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how quickly you connect with somebody in such a short period of time, because our likes are so on the same path, so to speak. And I know about you, you know about me, and it's just about the history, and so all the little stuff is out of the way automatically, and you can just have a candid conversation with people these days. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful icebreaker. I think we can call it that way.
100%.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for being on the show. Before we jump in, I've got some sponsors to knock out. There's a new one for people who are watching on YouTube. First and foremost, though, Hormesis, they've been with me since day one. Working with Alex and Oliver directly. Man, they are just working on some cool things. And when I saw they were doing the New Jersey program this year, I was stoked about it. And then to see, like, we'll dive into it later, but like Miami Effect, and you're working with them, like, just what a great partnership. And then recently, this is the very first episode, I have Pro DNA on board now. We had some beautiful conversations with ZP over there on Pro DNA and Infamous, and they were just so stoked to come on board and support the show any way they could. So they've got, they're sending me a care package with a bunch of Pro DNA gear, and like, they've got their coffee. It's like, I'm super excited to check that out. And then the cool thing, that all ties into BFP gear, because you can buy all of the Pro DNA gear at bfpgear.com. So like, it's just a beautiful blended sponsorship.
Yeah, no, they're great guys over there. They have the best products in the game, in my opinion, for sure. And Hormesis as well. Guys, man, Alex and Oliver and all those guys. I mean, Miko, the whole side of that river is just amazing, with talented people and just forethought and just really details oriented people. And it's amazing to see what they're doing, all of them.
Yeah, like the details, I think we lose that sometimes in today's day and age. So it's cool to be a part of that program and just represent one of, if not the greatest brand in paintball. They're literally changing the game in so many different ways, off the field and on the field. Hey, super quick before we dive into this podcast, there's been something on my mind lately. Did you know that nearly 50% of you still are not subscribed to this podcast? If you've been enjoying any of the shows that you've seen so far, the free and simple way to show your support is by simply hitting that subscribe button. And then my commitment to you is to continue bringing on guests each and every week, diving into the stories that are untold, the vulnerabilities, and really getting a look into some of the icons of our sport. Thank you so much. Back to the show. Well, cool. Let's jump into it. We've got a lot of questions that you and I were kind of going back and forth on. And so one of the first ones I wanted to dive into is, I've been following the game since I was a little kid, obviously just like you. And it seems like over the past few years, like, I would hear your name, and then there was a few years where like it went kind of quiet, and like you were kind of in the behind the scenes, working with Push and those guys. And now you're just back, like, kind of in the limelight. You're commentating, running, coaching, and helping out with other parts of the industry. Talk to me about what it's like to be back in the limelight.
Well, I mean, I have the luxury of time, and this is, I mean, there's a few things in life that people know. This is one of the things I'm actually good at. So. And, it's given so much to me over the years. I really want to give back to the sport. And I really enjoy it. I'd taken a hiatus. I was doing concerts, and, I have, my my hands in a lot of different things like concerts and booking agencies and, just a lot of different things. Paintball kind of took a back seat for a little bit. I kind of got burned out a little bit because of just the politics, and I was just like, this is going to give me a headache. I heard my hips were going down, my shoulder, my body was falling apart. I stuck in with the infamous guys. We still play the ICPLs together. But it was here and there. But I missed everybody a lot. People like yourself. It's the getting out of the house, going and just saying hi to people and catching up and seeing new products and then the whole coaching thing kind of came out of nowhere. I was like, well, I can't really play right now because I got to get my hips done, and I was broken for that matter, and I was like, well, let's just get back into coaching, and I talked to Corey Field. I'm like, hey man, you coach these teams, because I had no idea where to look, because I was like, I'll ask around and kind of see, if somebody needs a coach, and I asked around. People were like, oh, this is in January, mind you.
Wow.
People are already set with their coaches and the teams that I wanted to coach and whatnot. And Corey's like, yeah, jump on the free agents on NXL Paintball Facebook page. So I did that, and my phone melted pretty much.
I bet, yeah.
Obviously, it was a lot of teams like Division 4, and they didn't really. They just said, hey, well, that'd be great to have as a coach, but they didn't know the back end things of it. I mean, comes with a cost, and everything comes with a cost.
Sure.
And the time and where they located, and am I going to fly out to LA every other weekend for practice? No, that's not going to happen because I live in Florida now. So there's a lot of variables to me coming down and choosing a team. I grinded down to 2 different teams, one out of Texas and one that it just was up and coming, and it just kind of fell together very quickly. But it couldn't have fallen together as easily as it did without Travis and ZP over at Pro DNA, everybody over there, Planet Eclipse, Vulcan, or Miko designed our jerseys and got them done within like a week, which is unheard of.
It's wild.
Alex kind of, we kind of designed one on the maker that they have online, which is super cool. But there's a lot going on with our jerseys, and there's a lot of sponsors we got to say, hey, thank you to. And Alex actually went out his way and he designed it himself with Miko, and then they got it done, and man, and here we are. So, wow. Yeah, it was a whirlwind. I didn't even know with that team that I didn't know most of the guys' names. The Saturday before of the tournament, I started figuring everybody's name out. So, but the coaching didn't seem like a way to get back into it. Give back to the sport. I coach some teams around here locally in Florida that I do it, for nothing. Like the Tiki's guys, they have a team called Revo. Great guys. Tiki, Aaron Vega over there always treats me really, really well. Then I got Legacy Paintball Park down the street. They also, treat me well. Tom and Jacob and Jason and those guys. And I'm in a plethora of great paintball players down here.
Yeah,
just a cesspool of everybody loves to play Saturdays and Sundays, and it's not far from my house. So it's a win, being out here. But coaching was my way back into the sport and be able to do something without having to run around and beat myself up more right now. So.
Yeah, you said something I think that a lot of players go through or will go through at some point, right? Like I think a lot of the older pros are starting to get to that point where their bodies are starting to break down, right? And when you had your 2 hip replacements, those surgeries, did you go through any type of like identity crisis of like, man, like I can't play now, so like what do I do?
I only got one done. I got the other. They wouldn't do both at the same time, so I got one done. The other one's coming up in July. But it's mentally it's trying, because I have 2 torn rotator cuffs. I have 2 bad knees. I've replaced my knee, or I've replaced my ACL on my left knee twice, and the knees are not getting done anymore. Because those are whatever. I mean, I can walk, so I'm good.
Yeah.
But I powered through it. But Travis and LB and those guys were playing in Florida, and it got to the point where it's so painful. Like, and I stopped drinking because that took a lot of the edge off, and the pain just kind of went away. Yeah. Which created a whole nother problem, because drinking to solve a problem is never a positive thing.
Sure.
And I did that for years and years because I was consistently in pain, and people don't understand. Some people do, some people don't, about, just pain management. And I don't take the Vicodins, and I don't take, the hydrocodone, and so I don't take prescription pills. So I did I was I was drinking a lot, and I started taking CBD and gummies and stuff, and that actually helps a lot.
Yeah.
And so I went that route because I stopped drinking over a year ago.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was time. I mean, I had a good run. God, everybody knows that. So, but it's funny, the conversations that I have with these older pros that you're talking about, like myself, Ronnie Simpkins, Brian Benini, the old school guys that have been around the sport for a long time. The conversations that we have nowadays, as opposed to the conversations we had 15, 20 years ago, are hilarious, because now we're talking about, hey, what'd you take for your hip, or what'd you take for this, or how's your shoulder doing, or how's the back problem going? We're like those old guys on TV that your dad told you about you'd be like, and here we are, 40 years later, in 2026, it'll be 40 years for me playing paintball. And that's just kind of unheard of. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the people, like you had mentioned. Yeah. It lights up people's faces when I see like yourself, or like when I saw you in Atlantic City, we're like, hey man, you and I have been trying to get together and do this for years, and you came out of nowhere, bro. I mean, I'm very proud and happy for you, because you do quality work, and you kind of took a bull by the horn, so to speak, and went out there and just started doing work. So hats off to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that part was missing, because remember back in 2008, we lost a lot of the media. We lost we lost all the magazines. Advertising was gone. Sponsorship pretty much took a crap because of the economy and whatnot. And it took a while for all that to come back and kind of resurrect itself, with Oliver and Alex doing this, 1v1, the Hormesis duel, the different formats, the ICPL coming back in with Tim Montresor when he was around, God bless him, just doing work, him and I think it was Russell, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Those guys just resurrected the whole, thing for people like myself to play, because I can make it to that spot 10 feet away from me. You're not going to see my fat ass running up to this 50 anymore. Exactly. But with that said, getting the hip done, it's night and day, man. Like I walked in at 9, walked out of there at 4:30, and I'm in, I think 5 weeks now. And I got to be careful with it still.
Of course.
It's just strengthening and walking, and I can walk like there's no pain anymore.
Wow.
So it's pretty, I'm looking forward to getting the next one done so I can actually go back out. Actually, I'm just happy. I'm just looking forward to be able to run again.
Yeah.
Or do anything with a wife, or go hiking, or whatever it might be. But people got to be mindful of that. The kids these days are a lot more athletic than we were when we go right to the bar, go right to the field, and that's just the way things were back then. It was a different animal.
Yeah.
Now these kids are held accountable. Like you look at the Russian, the Legion, or you look at AC Dallas and those guys, and they're all these kids that are sticking out in your head are fit, and they're doing work, and they pay attention to what they eat. They pay attention to this. You have First Form, you have Harrison Fry eating avocados every other minute. The kid's a nerd, but he knows how to take care of himself. Yep. And then God bless him, he's one of the nicest kids out there that I've ever met. Totally. But he's top of his game. Arturo. I could go on for days with names.
Sure.
But these kids take a lot better care of themselves than we used to, because there's no pension in paintball.
Yeah, it's a whole different lifestyle, right? And like I think some of the names that you mentioned, and add the 100-year-old Ryan Greenspan who's still running like these kids. The thing that ties it together, they all take care of their bodies. They're focusing on what they're fueling their body with. And it's just a whole different game from now versus, back in the NPPL days where, you were kind of that rock star, right? The rock star on the field and off the field. Talk to me about what that's like, because I think if I could imagine, 20, 30 years ago when you were at the height of your career and people are coming up to you, you're like a celebrity. Did you go through any type of phase where you had to like kind of drop that party boy rock star lifestyle and like still interact with fans? Was that a hard interaction for you?
Not really, because, I kept up the persona, so to speak. And, when I was at the tournament, or people had this certain, thought about it, what they perceived me to be. And yeah, I for the sponsors and what, whatever sells, it's no different than wrestling or
it's a show
it's a show, and anybody who really knows me, it over time, it did get tiring, because I'm just not like that.
Yeah.
I was back then, I was a total asshole. Trust me. And I didn't care. I was out there just, put it on people, and I wouldn't even care back then. But, it did wear on you as I got older. And it's just, I started losing friends over, because I would take that persona and implement it into my real life and talk to people the way I was talking to people sometimes on the field. And it didn't sit well. I was losing friends, and they're like, man, that guy's an asshole, but they don't know me the way that you know me. So I would say something, these one-liners that people would be like, did he just say that, really? And it kept people off. It was kind of funny in some aspects, but sometimes I crossed the line, losing friends and making people upset. And so I had to kind of, as I grew older, I grew out of that, so to speak.
Sure.
Still maintain the persona when I had to, but on the flip side, I also would be the first one to hang out with the kids afterwards in the stands, or just turn that switch off and kind of be the person that I really am. I'm actually a nice guy, believe it or not.
And you are, like the first time, I think it was maybe the first event this year at USXBL or last year, we were in line to check in, and I was with one of my friends, and I was like, hey, that's Chris Lasoya up there. And he literally, like, his face went white. Like, he had looked up to you, and I was like, you got to say hi to him. And he just was like, no, like, I've heard so many things about him. And then obviously we walked up and I introduced him to you. And obviously, like, when people know you, you're the nicest person. And so it just completely, like, shook him that he didn't realize that. And so we had a beautiful conversation after of, like, what you see on the field is sometimes not the person off the field. Like, he's a genuine human.
Yeah, well, we're all pretty competitive. I mean,
sure.
You're competitive in everything you do. I mean, I know you are, because
totally.
It shows in your work. And paintball is my work. And, unfortunately for some people, when I play, I lose my mind, and I do, but it's drive, and, it's just pure, just drive to win, and just be that, person that wants to go out there and never, ever lose. So when I do, it upsets me. And that goes into the coaching thing. Losing as a coach is a lot harder than losing as a player, because the player stuff I can fix myself. I can fix that. I'm trying to fix, when you try to fix a team, the whole team itself, and try to figure out what's going on or what the problem might be, because Miami just isn't doing what I expected it to. But at the same time, it is a work in progress, and I understand that. Yeah. But I take a step back and go, don't get mad. Let's just fix the problem, figure it out. You know what you're doing. But how do you fix the problem? And then when we don't win, I feel like I let the guys down. They feel like they let me down, and it's taken a little while to wrap my head around the coaching thing, because it is a different animal, but I just take the knowledge that I have gained over the years and try to implement it into these kids' head. And sometimes it doesn't take, so I kind of got to force it in a little bit.
Yeah. That's where, like, the frustration comes in for a coach. All right.
I grab guns at practice. I grab guns and say, this is how you do it. And I'm stumbling, can't even bend over me out there, just blowing people's heads off. And I can barely walk, let alone move.
So, I mean, right there, if you can do it.
I'm like, if I can do it like this, and you're like 23 years old and you can't do that, I'm like, you might want to go play golf or something else, because I'm just going to strangle you at the end of the day. So, but like you said, on the field, hate everybody. I will shoot my mom in the face. I don't care. But off the field, we're all friends and we're all family. We're out here for a common goal.
Yeah.
And, I'm here to support my sponsors, and I don't want to be that asshole guy that the sponsor's like, hey man, you got to tone it down a little bit. Because back then they didn't care, but now it's more, there's families out there. There's moms, there's dads.
Yeah.
There's a certain persona you have to, portray, so to speak, and to want these kids and these parents to keep coming back, because that's the backbone of our sport.
Sure.
Not me anymore. I'm just the person that laid the bridge for these people to get across the river, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, I would have loved to see, like, the sales, right? Like, of the jersey sales of Avalanche and of Infamous, when you had that persona, to see, like, what it would have compared to if maybe you didn't have that persona, just to see how much of that would have impacted all of that.
It's insane. Yeah. It's insane. I mean, there's people out there that like the bad boy, mostly women, but I'm married, so. But I think that's how I got her. But the people would buy stuff just because they like. If you look at paintball as a whole, it's a sport where people like to go out and hurt people, and there's just that group of people that like that.
Yeah.
They don't have anything else to turn to. A lot of these people come up, hey man, you saved me from doing drugs. You saved me from doing this. I watched you as a kid, and that stuff means the most to me.
Isn't that wild?
It's numbing to even, hey man, I'm blessed and just flabbergasted to be a part of somebody's life that I don't even know. Yeah. And what I think to myself, well, what would happen to this person if they wouldn't have seen me? I mean, yeah, there's other people out there, but it was me this time. And what would have been, how would their life have changed if they wouldn't have been introduced to paintball? Yeah. And then found, not just me, but the Ryans, the Marcellos, insert anybody here, photographers, they see you out there. They talk about you guys too.
For sure.
But there's like, man, that guy takes such good pictures and the angles, and there's photographers out there that play paintball, but they're not very good at paintball. But they see you out there, and then that's kind of their in. They come here and start shooting photos and stuff. It goes both ways. Everybody that is part of this program, and I say program as a whole because paintball, Tom's, the Jason Trozens, the refs, all the photographers, the video guys, the Mikos, the dual thing, myself, every one of us, the players, are a part of an organization and program to feed the organization that we help build.
Yeah.
And a lot of these kids we're a lot nicer than we used to be. You come around us 25 years ago, F this, F that, getting in fist fights with our Aftershock. I talk about that all the time. Things were different then. Yeah. And that was appealing to a certain crowd, but now it become a little more mainstream. And we got to be mindful of our P's and Q's, so to speak. Like there could be a dad or mom sitting right there. And I made this mistake personally, and I regret this one time. This kid wanted to buy my jersey. He was there, super nice kid. He couldn't have been more than 8, 9 years old, and caught me at a bad time. And it was one of those breaking everything around me kind of fits that I used to do.
Yeah.
And the father grabbed his kid. This one friend of mine was waiting to introduce me. And his dad, this gentleman's dad was a very intellectual person. I ended up talking to him later and finding this out. He took his son and he's like, yeah, I don't want my son to see this or be a part of this. And so that individually impacted my life because I individually impacted somebody else's, and it wasn't a good look. And I told myself that day, that's about the time I stopped drinking, because when I would drink, I'd lose my mind. Sure. And there's no good story that came out of that, put it that way. Sure. And it hurt my feelings, and I ended up giving the kid a jersey, but the damage was already done at that point with his father. His father didn't want me to meet him. So I just gave the jersey to his dad, and that's $1,000 jersey. I just gave away to a kid because I was an asshole. And, you got to be mindful of what you do and who you do it to and around who. You can go in a porta potty and scream and punch the walls, and that'd be over. But you got to be mindful of where you act around people these days.
Yeah, and that was back then, right? Like that was before social media, before people had phones.
Thank God. Good Lord. I'm glad that I was not a part of that era.
Yeah.
Trust me, I would be in jail by now without that.
I mean, it would have been for some crazy stories, even more of what you had.
Good Lord. They're all locked away. They're all locked away.
Yeah, like that's, man, with the cool thing with doing this podcast is I've had so many people reach out to me privately, like through direct message or even the comments of how the person I have on has impacted them. It would be so wild if that person that ended up getting that jersey saw this and was able to kind of come full circle with you. It would just be such a cool small world if that happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're out there, and I mean, you got a huge following, so I can't see that being impossible. I still to this day will get stopped at airports, and it's changed. The dialect and conversation goes a little different than when I was younger.
Sure.
It's like, I get these guys, and he walks up and he's got to be like late 30s. And I forget how old I am sometimes. And man, I used to watch you as a kid, and I remember doing this, and I used to do that. My first gun, I saw a magazine at Barnes and Noble, and I saw you on the cover, and just the whole spiel. And this guy's like 38, and I'm like, crap, where did time go? Yeah. I mean, because I'm well into my 50s now. Which explains everything for that matter.
Sure.
But the knowledge that I've gained throughout the years, and taken my situations I've had in paintball or conversations or just learning things throughout the paintball community through like somebody like yourself or any businessman for that matter. I've taken that into my private life, and it's the outside perspective of a paintball player business wise is way different than a book can teach you in college. It's street smarts kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like if you own a brand or business inside of paintball, you have to wear so many different hats. Where any other business, you would pay somebody to do that, or like, Hormesis is a prime example, like you mentioned earlier, of Alex designing your jersey. Well, Alex also does customer service. He also does the website. He also does so many different parts of that brand, and so it teaches you so many life skills that you can continue on outside of the sport.
Well, he's a total freak of nature.
He is.
Let's just be realistic about it. I mean, and people ask me a good question that comes up every now and then is, well, what do you think about this guy or that guy or these guys or whatever, because they want my opinion of what I think of like the Marcellos or the, the Tyler Harmons or, the Shane. I've played with all these guys at one time or another or against them in one way or another.
Yep.
And, like the Olivers, Ryan, Yosh, Eric Crandall, Alex, all that dynasty, Iron Kids, Todd Martinez, they've all had the most respect. Even when I was at my worst, these kids were super respectful. I think it might've been out of fear because I was going to kill them because they were beating me up when they were little kids. And I was like, damn, what is going on with this? But they've always had the most respect, and those guys have bent over backwards for me individually and personally. When I'm like, hey man, I really need to get this done. Man, it'd be done. It wouldn't even be a conversation. They wouldn't even answer me and just show up sometimes. And that's just the kind of personalities that I want to be attached to. Like, look at Travis, look what he's built through the Infamous brand and the Pro DNA. And now he's one of the biggest sponsors out there that gets some of the best products. When you get your stuff, man, his stuff's top quality.
Totally.
The Hormesis guys, any one of our sponsors, Planet Eclipse. I used to play with Bonsai Bandits. I was one of the first guys to go overseas and play with those guys. So I've just been very blessed to be encompassed in such a great circle of, I want to say sponsors because that's business terms. What I consider these guys friends, because they have done everything they possibly can to help.
Yeah. And that's what I've learned. So like, being back in the sport these past 4 years, doing all the photography thing and now the podcast, the most important thing out of everything, companies come and go, players come and go. It's the relationships that you build, because those are the things that will stick long after teams dissolve and sponsors go away. It's the people. And if you have those relationships, like that's going to last you your whole entire lifetime.
100%. I agree. And they have, I can think of very few people that I consider friends or have made friends along the way in this business.
Yeah.
Or in this sport. I even hate calling it a business, because honestly, we're just a bunch of friends doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and we're all making money doing it, and we're having fun. And, we have a different mindset than most of the 9-to-5 cubicle people.
Yeah, totally.
And I wouldn't want to be one of those. But with that said, I've had very few friends that have not still been in my life one way or another. Yeah. Because it's a long lasting effort. So like you said, I could not see you personally, Dan, in let's just say a year. And then I see you all of a sudden the first tournament. It'd be like we never skipped a beat.
Yeah.
And that's the same way with a lot of these guys. Like Phil Dominguez, still one of my best friends. And, you don't hear his name come up. He's old school Avalanche, Gold Ground Zero. He's still one of my great friends, and he's always been there for me. And he's just one of those guys that he's never going to go away. And that goes with the long list of people that are already in my life, like the Mikos and insert anybody here for that matter.
Sure. Gosh, it's all about the people. It's all about the relationships that you build.
100%.
I want to go back for a second, because you had mentioned like somebody coming up to you in an airport when they're 38 years old and telling you like, hey, back when I was a kid, you were this and you were my hero. What is that like for you now? Do you ever want them to know you as the Chris Lasoya today and like kind of break away from that? Because I've seen people go through that legacy change where like, yeah, that used to be who I am, but like now I'm stepping into the business side. Or what is that experience like?
No, I kind of just roll with it. They have a certain persona, and it's like it's like your favorite stuffed animal when you're like 2.
Yeah.
This is a good way to put it. It's like, you know, you see that. I still go to my grandma's house and I'll find this little Redskin hammer that my dad gave me when I was like 3 years old. Yeah. And I still find that hammer. And it's very nostalgic. And it's just something that you touch it and it's just like, it gives you this weird feeling. And I don't want to change anything about that. It's the same thing when people meet me. I'm like, I just go with the flow of what I let them dictate the conversation. And then I kind of segue into how I want the situation to go. Yeah. But I let them believe what they want to believe, because in their mind, that's what got them to where they are. And I want them to continue to believe what they want to believe.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
You know, there's no reason to, you know, to break. It's not going to break their heart because they're old. Most of them are adults, you know, and they can take it if I think, oh, I'm not like that anymore. I just go with the punches, let them dictate the situation and the conversation. And then eventually I'm like, well, what do you do for a living? And they tell me where they came. They went to college because I said to, or some, and I'm like, oh, that's amazing, you know.
Wild.
And then it segues into them forcing them to ask me what I do. And then I go into the concerts and I say, I do this, I do that. Yeah. So they see the broader picture of just what they thought of me and then what I actually do. And they're even more entertained or, you know, just excited about what I do outside, because who does want to throw concerts, or who doesn't want to be in the booking agency of DJs, you know, some of the DJs they know, you know, all these kids, they talk about EDC and all these big, you know, I've worked with every artist on that lineup. You know, I've done Sublime with Bradley and it, you know, Sublime with Rome. I've done Dirty Heads. You know, I've just done operations for these big festivals. Yeah. And people are like, man, that's really cool. But sometimes it bites me in the ass because I'm in a hurry and then they want to talk about that from there.
Of course. Yeah.
So I try to pick and choose my battles. But that's the way I handle it, you know, mostly because I want to make sure that I maintain their dreams and their thought process. And everybody gets older. So as they get older, they understand that. So do I.
Sure.
And, you know, I'm not quite the asshole everybody thought.
Oh, you're not.
But that's the situation. I'm my moment.
We all do. But that's a beautiful way to navigate those conversations. Is you're right. Like you always hear, don't ever meet your heroes, but you're the exact opposite of that, because when people do meet you, you're allowing them to stay in their reality of what they thought that interaction was going to be like. And then it goes a step further because it naturally comes back to you're able to tie in what you're doing today, where they're going to feel even more of like a human connection with you.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And I try to, you know, accentuate and focus on what they do for a living. Like, let's say the guy's a DJ. Yeah. You know, I'll focus on the DJ portion of it and kind of go that route, and, you know, and kind of let them feel like, you know, they're a part of my life now because they do that. And that's what I do. And, you know, we're a lot more closer than you think, kind of thing. So it takes a relationship that they thought they had in their, you know, in their head, and it just makes it better. So it takes a good experience that got them to where they were, whatever it might've been, drugs or, you know, insert any problem here. If there even was a problem, they're not always a problem, but, and it just takes that and it escalates the situation to where now they're like, wow, this is even better than I thought it would be. And then he'll hit me up online, and I'll answer everybody online when I get a chance. I get so many messages. It's hard to keep up sometimes, but I do answer everybody and say, hey, you know, it's nice meeting you, and, you know, hit me up whenever you want. And, you know, they do. So.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about paintball. And, you know, I sometimes struggle because like we all obviously want to grow the sport to like higher scales and bring on more light to the sport. But I think that the one thing that I caution about doing that is we might lose that human element between the fans and the pros, because the more you separate that, the harder it's going to be to like get in touch with these guys. And, you know, if you were to DM somebody, an NFL player, they're not even going to see it because they're getting thousands a day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's for sure. I mean, you know, it also with the way the pits are set up now, the pros are not quite as accessible as they used to be. You don't see as many signings outside of booths like you used to. You don't see a lot of pros hanging out at the tournament and interacting with the people like they used to. I mean, you see me walking around everywhere, and I'll talk to everybody.
Totally.
Because I think that's an important part of the whole process. But I'm seeing a lot less. You know, you have the standard Tyler Harmons that will talk to a rock, for that matter. You know, because that's just the kind of person that he is.
Yeah.
The Alexes, the Ryans, and they'll do it with a smile on their face. Most, you know, Joe Barrett, You know? I mean, all those guys will do it, most of the infamous guys, but you do have a group of people that don't. I'm not sure if it's a team mandate or whatever it might be, but they just don't interact, or they don't go out of their way to go to every single booth at the tournament and say, hey to everybody, you know, sponsor or not, you know, those are the people that are paying the bills for this sport across the board, because, you know, let's just be realistic about it. Without the sponsors, without all the products being made, without people shelling out money, you know, your time isn't free.
Yeah.
You know, you come out there and you take photos, and you got to grind, and you got to go home and edit. When they go home from the tournament, it's like a concert. And I put this way. I'm at the concert a week before you are, and you have your fun for those 2 days. I'm at the concert a week after you are, taking everything down, because somebody has to do it.
Exactly.
It's like you'll shoot what? Just give me a ballpark. I'll say 3,000 photos. 10?
No. So at an NXL weekend, at a 3-day event, probably close to 30 to 35,000 photos.
And the time that it takes to go through and not just pick, there's probably 4 or 5 stages in your life of picking photos, because you'll pick one and you'll go look at them again. No, that one's not good enough. And you got to wean it down sooner or later.
Yeah.
And then you got to do all the photos and touch them up.
Edit it, upload.
Everything you do. And then the video portion of it. I mean, that's like a 2, 3, 4 week process, if not more.
Yeah.
You know, and so I understand that, because I can take what I do and I can look at your life and put myself in your shoes and say, this guy's his job's not done for another 2, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it goes across the board for, like, even the tournaments. Like, look at Fatty. He goes in, he sets up that tournament, sick or not, wind, rain, snow, it doesn't matter. Him and his crew out there. Who do you think picks up all those paintballs? Who do you think takes down all the nets? Who do you think packs all the stuff in the semis? I mean, that is a huge feat within itself. Getting all the permits for the fire marshal. People don't see that part, you know, of the business, and it's a very, very difficult thing to get done, overtaking. But these people just show up and play paintball and they go home. They don't see everything else. So,
yeah, I've got so much respect for people that just all the behind the scenes stuff, and that's part of like doing this podcast is, you know, I want to get some of those folks on to kind of spotlight some of that. Like, I've got one of the NXL pro referees coming on in a few weeks to like talk about what it's, and he's one of the guys that actually comes a week early and stays a week after, you know, to kind of get that whole entire picture of what his role is like that people won't see.
Mm-hmm. Those guys have the hardest job.
100%.
Like look at the Dub Cs and the USXBLs. I work with Mike closely on the USXBLs in Texas. And I didn't realize, I mean, I knew it was a great organization, and the way things were done very, very well.
Yeah.
But until I started commentating for him, I didn't realize the whole ins and outs and how start to finish he got it done. And it was super impressive. And the hand-picked crew he has, and they come in, like you said, a week before, and then they ref the whole weekend. I mean, those days are long, man.
They're brutal, especially the Texas sun too.
Oh, forget it. It's got to be one of the hardest jobs out there. No wonder those guys are assholes. You know, I would be too. Yeah. Terrible. That's a terrible job.
Yeah.
But with that said, you know, I want people to really think outside the box when they go to these tournaments and appreciate all the behind the scenes things, like Tom and Chris Rail, and insert anybody that works the event, you know, or, you know, for that matter, the paint truck guys. I mean, it's a workout, you know, across the board. But, you know, I make sure to go on my way and say thank you to those guys all the time.
Yeah, I do too. You know, whenever I go on the field, like I say hi, or like I'll joke around with them just to try to like brighten up the day a little bit. And you can tell it just goes such a long way, because the days are really long for them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure.
I know we're short on time, so I want to jump in.
We got plenty of time. Keep going.
Okay. Thinking back to the first event this year, you know, we obviously talked about nostalgia for people, you know, coming and talking up to you later in their life. When I stepped foot onto the Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers, you know, stadium and that whole area, the last time I was on there, obviously, was when we had NPPL back there in 2004, I think it was, which I think was the year you actually won that event. I'm pretty sure. So what was that like for you coming back to Tampa, having paintball back there, being 20 years removed?
I loved it. You know, it was nice for me because I live about 20 minutes from there. So it was nice not to have to get on an airplane and fly and do all the little, you know, BS that we do. Just even getting to a tournament these days is a pain in the butt.
It's expensive.
Oh man, forget about it. But it was very nostalgic in the fact that, that was a huge turning point. I wouldn't say so much for myself, because I knew we were going to win that tournament anyway.
Yeah.
It was a huge turning point for organizations and for the players themselves to put their foot down and make a statement, say, look, unless you're going to pay us X amount of dollars, or you're going to pay us, you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm paying you to come here and you're dictating what I can do. I don't think so. That doesn't sit well with me. And other people were just, they didn't have the nuts to pull the trigger and just do it, where Travis, myself, LB, Brandon Lambertson, Rusty, and the group of guys, John Richardson, just to say, kick rocks, we're going anyway.
Yeah.
But it was an emotional, trip down memory lane to be there, because that was a huge turning point, not just for our organization as an Infamous, and for myself, but, for our sponsors and the direction that tournament paintball was going, because it was split down the middle. People started talking and started, becoming a little more organized and working together a little better after that, eventually ending up where we are. So do I think that I helped or not? I can't say do I think the team and all of us helped force their hand to do something about what they were doing in the process? Yeah, I do. Do I think it was a positive outcome? I think it had its positives. Yes, for sure. Everything with a positive has a negative. There's always a negative somewhere. It might not be, as surmountable as a positive is, but, I think we did good by what we did and sticking to our guns. Yeah. It ended up costing us personally, the team, because we couldn't play pro anymore in the PSP, and it was kind of a mess on the back end of things for us, but it all worked out in the end. So, I don't have any regrets about doing that whatsoever.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head, right? Like, whenever you have a monumental change like that, there's always going to be good and bad and highs and lows with it. I just don't think sometimes people see that. So it's incredible to hear, like, you going back there and having that experience of being able to reflect back. Reflection is so powerful, especially at these events. And then also having the Miami Effect brand come back, like, right at that event too, was just unreal. What was that like?
Yeah, man, a lot of this gray hair came from that. Yeah. Like, we had, when I put the post up on the free agents group, one of the teams that hit me up, they didn't even have a team name. It was like Jamie Beadle from overseas.
Yeah.
Like Khalid Lefty, some guys from Florida. Phil Veach, who we'll get into the pro DNA stuff later. The pro peptide stuff later.
Yep.
And some other guys, from Arizona. And so we got together, and like I said, there's 14 guys on the team, or 13 guys, one lady. And I told them I'll give everybody a shot, because I can't just come in with a team and say, no way, I'm cutting most of these guys. Because it wasn't fair. And B, I didn't know these guys from Adam. They could be good. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Then we started practicing. So I cut 2 before the tournament, because I kind of had to, because we could only roster 12 anyway. So I went in the tournament with 12. Still didn't know anybody's name or what they were capable of doing, because we literally, from the phone call to Tampa, was 4 weeks. In that time period, in that time period, I managed to secure all of our sponsors, got our guns, and jerseys, and we were the best dressed 0-4 team in Tampa.
Yeah, totally. Those jerseys were killer.
They were great. They looked good. Too bad there was a big 0 next to our name, but yeah. But listen, it's a work in progress. So we made some changes after that tournament, and then after AC, we did a little better, but we still needed some changes. We're still in the process of making changes. You go win World Cup. Nothing. The other 4 tournaments didn't even make a difference anyway. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So, realistic. I talked to Ryan Gray, because he's local here to me down here. He coaches the
Russians. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, he goes, I can tell you're frustrated, because he saw me at the tournament, and I broke clipboards and punched tables, and I was just, I was beside myself, because I'm not used to losing. and I've never been part of a losing program.
It's part of your legacy.
Yeah. And so I was embarrassed first and foremost. But then I took a step back. I was like, this is a work in progress. You know, my maturity or what's left of it came out a little bit.
Yeah.
And now, you know, we got the brand. You know, we could have done it without, you know, Vulcan, Planet Eclipse, Pro DNA, or Mises. We just picked up Virtue. They're actually now our loader sponsor.
Cool.
Pro DNA, you know, the Pro DNA guys, I think, like I said, that Peptides, that's one of our bigger sponsors. Yeah. And that's outside the paintball community. So having that sponsorship is actually, it's nice to have an outside sponsor come in and actually pay for some things and do this and come out of the woodwork as much as they have for this team.
Yeah, they came out of nowhere, I feel like, and they just exploded.
These peptides came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
like I had no idea what they were, and I think we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, you know, and it came up in conversation. It's like, well, what do you think about bringing back the Miami Effect name? And I was like, that's a pretty good idea. Yeah. So I checked the trademarks and stuff because I originally started the team, but then it went away when we left the PSP, and then I checked everything and all the legalities were fine. So I said, okay, let's do it. So we picked up Miami Effect again, and here we are. So
yeah, that's
not too much.
That's where I was going with that question is like, what was it like to bring the brand name back, right? Because like that was a legendary name back when NXL first kind of took over with X-Ball. Having Miami Effect was just massive. So to see it back was just, it was so cool for the sport. I think it was one of those moments where no matter what happened at Tampa, just having Miami Effect there was like a big part of that event.
I think it's still the same. I mean, we still get a lot of our fan base is growing daily.
Yeah. I bet.
You know, there's still that nostalgic group of people out there that want to be a part of the Miami Effect group. We have a lot of products, like individual private label stuff coming out that's going to be available on the website. And, I mean, it's a work in progress, as you know.
Yeah.
You know, but I expect to be, you know, running full speed by the World Cup, and then on to next year. I mean, obviously, we're going to go pro sooner or later, but not before we're ready. I mean, we got a long way to go before we get there, for sure.
Wow. Have you thought about that moment, like when Miami Effect is back on the pro field and you're standing on the sideline coaching, like what you're going to go through? Yeah,
no, I think that by the time we get there, all the newness sort of worn off already.
Yeah.
So it just be business as usual for me. You know, it's when you've been doing this as long as I have, it's just like another day at the office, so to speak.
Sure.
You know, and I have a lot of good friends out there that are helping us along the way. Like, you know, the Mike Hinmans because he's one of the better coaches out there.
Yeah.
And you know, he's just like, he'll watch my games and he'll be like, man, did you see that? And I'm like, no, I missed that one because I can't see everything.
Sure. Yeah.
And he kind of gives me some advice, and you know, there's a lot of people out there that don't need to help that are helping.
Yeah.
Just because they want to see us succeed, they want to see me succeed, they want to see the team succeed, and the brand itself.
Yeah.
You know, and with that comes the sponsorship succeeding, and you know, everybody's happy. No, but it's going to take a while.
Yeah, it's all part of the community. You know, like everyone has a piece of it, and everyone has they help the cog continue to roll, right?
Correct.
You had mentioned Pro Peptides a few times, and I definitely want to touch on that because locally I've got a big supporter of this show, Joe Enzo. He tore his ACL, I think at the first USXBL event, actually. I think it was one of the games that you were actually announcing, which is kind of crazy. I just put that two together.
Nice.
And locally, he started to use, you know, some type of peptides too, and he raves about it. And then we hear, you know, Ryan Greenspan like just had, I think through Pro Peptides, I think.
Yeah. He actually just went to Arizona and got his, I think it was shoulder.
His shoulder, yeah.
Yeah, so, and the stuff is night and day. I'm not extremely educated on it yet. I'm trying to get there because there's a lot of variables that go there. But I heard about it. Ryan Moorhead, that guy's amazing as well. I'm sure you know that. Him and I sat down for a brief second at the ICPL in Tampa this year, in the beginning of the year. And he's like, have you tried peptides yet? And he brought the BP 157 and he's like, man, cause he's no spring chicken anymore either.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, you know, it helps my ails out and my knees and that. And I'm like, well, you know what, I'll start, you know, cause we just got on the team together. And so I hit up Phil and I'm like, this is my problem. Well, it's not hard to name my problems because there's so many of them. And I was like, what do you think? And Phil shipped me these peptides. They're all the materials are sourced in the US.
Wow.
And there's injectables and oral, like pills. If you want to educate yourself, go to mypropeptides.com.
Yeah.
You know, it has a very, you know, it's very explained in depth on what you're getting and what it's for and stuff. But we're also going to probably start doing booths at the tournaments as well.
Oh, wow.
So that we can actually educate people on site. And that way, you know, people will know what they're getting. But I started taking peptides before my hip surgery. And I had to stop taking it right before my surgery, about a week. And the pains that had gone away, I didn't even think about it. I didn't know they went away until they came back. And I was like, wait a minute, those pains were gone. And now they're back because I stopped taking them. Yeah. And now I'm back on them again. And my hip's amazing. I'm actually going to Phoenix this weekend. So on Monday, I'm going to go to the actual office, and I'm going to get the same thing Ryan did, but for my hip.
Oh, cool.
So, but I got hip bad, shoulders, back. I mean, I'm a little more broken than he is.
Yeah.
But I encourage anybody, you know, what I'm a snake oil kind of guy too. I was like, yeah, whatever. Until I got into the mix and started doing more research, and I started actually doing it myself. And I'm very impressed and intrigued on what more I can get out of it.
Yeah.
Because I kind of half-assed it at first, and, you know, now I'm actually full down trying to do it. And it's helping my progress along a lot quicker than it should. So with an ACL tear, I know all about those. Definitely try or hit up mypropeptides.com. Yeah. Hit me up personally, and I can point you in the right direction. Cool. I mean, I'm always available for questions like that as well.
Cool. Well, I mean, Enzo, you here? I know you're going to listen in. Hit up Chris with any questions, because he actually came to the field for the first time this past weekend. You know, still on crutches and everything, but like just being around the guys again just meant so much for his health, and like you could just see like the vibrant came back in his face. Mm-hmm. So it'll be cool to see like the Pro Peptides booth there. And just like anything, if people get educated on it, whether you believe it or not, then you can make the decision to, you know, take it or learn.
And it's relatively inexpensive. It's not like it's super expensive to get into either.
Yeah.
And I also have, if you want 10% off, you can use Lasoya 69. That's a promo code. If you want to use that, you're more than welcome to use it. I think you get 10% off your first order or second order or whatnot.
Nice.
But it's definitely something to look into. Patty Gleason, he's super educated on it. You know, Grace Stone.
Grayson Gladstone.
Sorry, yeah, Grayson Gladstone. He's very educated on it. Joe Barrett's in the thing. Ryan Greenspan's in the mix now, as you very well know. JT, Johnny Thompson, that plays with me, he's been getting his shoulder worked on. Yeah. But it's expanding very quickly.
Yeah.
And we actually we'll have some actually at the tournaments, but we run out very, very quick.
I'm sure.
So if it's something that anybody wanted, feel free to just come, look us up or find us. We're usually by the Hormesis booth or Pro DNA.
Yeah.
And just come get educated, and we can help you out.
Awesome. Thanks for offering that to people, because I mean, people are going to come up to you instantly and want to learn more about it.
I highly suggest it. Highly, for sure.
Speaking of, players starting to break down and players getting up there in age, what advice would you give to the pros that are now towards the end of their career of whatever is next for them? Like, how do they transition to that process without having that identity crisis?
Well, the good thing I've seen in like a lot of these pros that are getting a little bit older, that they're already established in life as with their own businesses or
their brands,
or whatever it might be, or they're established with a company already, that they can just take that knowledge and their paintball education and IQ and take it on to the next level, like whether it be coaching or, there's only a few spots left in the industry, or available for that matter, to even get into the industry, to be working within the industry, unless you start your own company. Yeah. So they got to be mindful of that. But a lot of these guys, they just fade away, it seems like, and they do their own business, and they'll pop up every now and then. But the only advice I can say is, as you get older, you got to start being more mindful of taking care of your body.
Yeah.
The traveling, people would look at us, we travel 250 days a year. and people are like, oh man, you have the best life. You go to this, you go to that, you go here, you go overseas. And I'm like, it's not all it's cracked up to be. I mean, getting on flights and rental cars and
flight delays.
Insert any travel. I mean, traveling now is way more difficult than it used to be.
Yeah.
As you very well know, especially with all that equipment you take with you. I can't imagine the nightmare. I bring a backpack because I don't play right now.
Yeah.
I just bring a backpack, and
that's the dream.
It's very nice. Yes. But just take care of yourself and have a plan. There's got to be an exit strategy. Just like any business, there's got to be an exit strategy for you to get out of the business, or to maintain in the business in a certain way that you're able to. Because these kids these days, they'll run circles around you. And if you're not in shape or have a plan to get out of that, then you're going to be in some trouble.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful advice, right? Is when you get into something, it's hard because you're so excited about the new thing, or if you're so immersed in it, of even thinking about the exit strategy, but that's so healthy to do. People talk about that in every part of your life, like have an exit strategy of when you're going to retire. Later down the road, like what's your exit strategy for when you pass away? Like how are you going to leave your valuables to people? So it's no different here. It's so important.
Yeah. And you got to take care of your body because, all the stuff that I'm going through now, like with the back, with the hips, with the shoulders, it's affecting my home life because my wife, she's very active. She likes going camping. She likes doing this and she likes hiking and stuff. And some of these things I'm just not able to do. Like we went to Halloween Horror Nights and I can't walk around that long.
Yeah.
So before I have to sit down again, so the effects that it has on your personal life, if you don't take care of yourself, I'm proof that it will affect what's going on if you don't, and I'm laid up now until probably, September after I get my next hip done.
Yeah.
But I'll be ready to go after that. So I'm looking forward to, just overall clean living, taking care of myself, eating healthier.
Yeah.
As opposed to the way I was before, because when you travel a lot, it's slim pickings because all these kids want pizza or they want McDonald's or I can't eat that anymore.
Fast food's open all the time, so it's easily accessible.
Yeah. So, and you all go out to dinner and I don't want to be that guy. Well, I don't want to go there. The only thing I like, I'm like, I'll go wherever. I'll find something. So I'll eat a salad and salad's terrible or whatnot. But it's just, you just got to be mindful of your surroundings and your body itself.
Yeah, that's great. What about the flip side of that question? So someone who is trying to make it into the pro league for the first time, what advice would you give to that person?
I think stick to your guns. Know your value. If I knew my value, I'd be a millionaire by now. I definitely I had a lot of people take advantage of me when I was younger, because it was a new realm and a new area for paintball to have somebody that was in a position like I was to sell products and not capitalize on it. I didn't even think about it because I was making pretty good money playing paintball anyway. So I didn't think outside the box or the longevity. I thought it was there forever.
Yeah.
And it's not always there. There's always somebody behind you ready to take your spot. So what I can say is know your value, learn how to read contracts, definitely get contracts if you're doing stuff, go to school, get a degree. I have a degree in accounting and, definitely have a plan B. Don't plan on paintball being the one all be all because you'll be making pizzas at Domino's doing, whatever. Because I'm very, very blessed and very lucky to be even having this conversation with you, first of all.
Yeah.
To having you want the conversation with me, it's still absurd to me that paintball has taken me to the realms and everything that comes with it. It's just perplexing to me that it's me. And I'm blessed every day to be that person. But at the same time, it doesn't work out that way for everybody. I'd say for 90% of the people, you're not a Tyler Harmon. You're not a Marcelo. You're not an Alex Goldman. You're not a Burtnikoff. You're not a J-Rab. You're not the person that those dollars are very, very limited, and they're going to a group of people that is very talented, but it's a segregated group of people. You 95% of the people out there are making money playing paintball. They're all shelling out money. And that's just the way it is. I mean, so don't think you're going to go there and be a Tyler Harmon or Alec Golden and make X amount of dollars a year, or do a private label gun like I do and sell out in like a week or whatnot. It doesn't work that way. And don't go into it with that thought, because you're only going to be disappointed if it doesn't work out. If it works out, hey, I'm happy for you. If it doesn't, I wouldn't be surprised. So just look out for yourself, because there's nobody else going to.
Yeah, it's incredible advice, right? Because I think so many companies nowadays, and this isn't a knock on a specific company or anything, but it's, hey, we'll trade you product or we'll give you something, right? And if you don't have a contract in place, that's where they can start to take advantage of you. It took me a few years being back into this thing to really learn, like, okay, like this company wants to give me gear or shirts or whatever it is. Like, that's so cool. I made it. And it's like, wait a minute. No, I didn't. Like, I'm getting the runaround here. Like, I need to go put a contract in place to protect my own brand.
Right. Exactly.
And so that's incredible advice.
Yeah. I mean, but on the flip side, if you do get those breaks, you should always be wearing like a Vulcan shirt.
Totally.
Pro DNA shirt or Hormesis hat or shirt, and you should never be wearing anything that is not somebody that supports you when you're on site at a tournament or at the tournament in general. Like, I bring probably 5 shirts to a tournament, one a day. I'll bring one for each sponsor. And I definitely bring that sponsor to light every time I'm at the field, whether I'm at dinner, because you're going to run into paintball players at field at
airports
or Chili's or airports or whatever. So the time I leave my house on a tournament to the time I get back home, I'm wearing a sponsorship T-shirt or hat or something to support the people that are supporting us.
Yeah,
because that's what they're there for. And don't come with your. And I've been running into this a lot with the team, because I want these players, and I don't have to name any names by any means, but well, I'm not going to pay for this, or I shouldn't be. I put my time in. I shouldn't be paying to play.
The entitlement.
Are you kidding me? I will knock your head off your shoulders. I don't even know your name, first of all, kid.
Yeah.
What have you won? I look at your APPA. You're 27 out of 30 teams for the past 5 years. You're a nobody. I'm here to help you and teach you how to get better. But you're coming here saying you're not going to pay for your flight. You're not going to pay for this. You're nobody. You might be a good paintball player, but there's a lot of good paintball players out there that just want to play paintball, and they have the money. That's an investment. Back when I was young, we were paying. There were 2,500 round cases. It was $125 a case. It was, but of course we only shot 10 balls a day. So it kind of made it was a little cost effective, Yeah. But well, like I'm saying, you can't come with your hand out thinking you're just going to be given anything. You got to prove yourself. You can come in with a great attitude, and you come in with some skills, the willingness to learn and listen, and don't come in with a self-entitlement like you had mentioned. Then so be it. You take a pack. If you go to a sponsor, I had a player do this, by the way. We're in an AC. Player comes in. I'm like, get a pack, get a pair of pants, because I told him we can get them for the from the team.
Yeah.
And I was going to pay for it, because we had already gone through 15 of this and that, because I had so many players and they cut them, and now you got new players.
Sure.
And I can't expect the sponsorship to cover everybody that I decide to cut. It just doesn't work that way. So I'm like, I'll get it for you, no problem. Comes in, grabs the pack, and the person behind the register, or the one helping the booth out, that runs the booth, mind you, very nice individual, takes the pack and kind of tosses it. I'm not paying for this shit. And I just walked in at this point, and I was like, I about lost my mind.
Wow.
And he no longer plays with the team, to say the least. Wow. But it's just like, I was perplexed at the audacity that he had, not to do that to my peers and my friends, but to a sponsor outside the box alone. They were like, I never want to see him in his booth again. So, I mean, and this guy's relatively new, and he's not a bad player, but he's going to burn himself before he even gets anywhere in life with this sport.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of touches back to what we said earlier, right? Like, relationships are so important in this, and that person, whoever it is, that conversation is going to start to trickle of like, hey, watch out for this guy, and like if he comes to your booth,
we're a small group of people.
Brands talk to each other.
Yeah, we're not. It's not like we're a big organization. We're the biggest group of idiots in the world, But but we all talk.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's not going to come from me. But I mean, when it doesn't take much. You piss off one person, and one person has a big mouth, And I like the kid. He's a good kid, and he was a good paintball player. He just, I don't know. I don't know. You know, it just astonished me that happened all to begin with in the first place. But it is what it is. Don't come with your hand out. That's all I got to say. Come out with a great attitude, good skills, willingness to learn, and know you got to put your time in before you're going to start getting free shit. Yeah. Super simple, not rocket science.
It takes work, right? Just like anything in life, it takes a lot of hard work and time.
100%.
Yeah. Speaking of, hard work and time, you've obviously been like plastered all over magazines and DVDs and posters and banners. 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, what do you want to look back and have your legacy be like? What do you want people to remember Chris Lasoya for?
I think if I retired today and never came back to paintball, I'd be happy with where everything ended up right now. I've had positive influences on a lot of different people. It only takes one. Yeah. A lot of people in life, they only have a positive influence on one person. And I feel like I've had a positive influence on, I couldn't even tell you how many people, but just the fact that I've gone through life being lucky enough to do what I love to do and get paid to do it, make a bunch of friends. I can go to any city in the world and know somebody from somewhere. Wild. Yeah, you just type in, go to your Facebook. Hey, I'm in town, and 10 people pop up. Hey, come over. A guy took me to dinner for his birthday. Yeah. Like one time, I was in Hawaii, and he was a valet at a Hilton in Hawaii, and he's a paintball player. And he's like, "Hey, it's my birthday. You want to go to dinner?" And he took me to dinner
for his birthday.
I was like, "What is this real life? What's going on?" It's just, I want to look back, and I want people to simply say, he was a good guy. And he put me in the right direction, and he taught me well, and he helped me get my start. Yeah. That's what I want. I mean, I've heard that from multiple people. You can hold somebody's hand as long as you want, but sooner or later you got to let go, and they got to do it themselves. Yeah. That is what I want people to think when I'm gone, for sure.
Beautiful answer. I think you're already well on that way. I think most of the community already thinks that.
I appreciate that.
Of course. I've got a few more. One of my favorite questions to ask is, my wife a long time ago started a paintball account, which ended up turning into this podcast called Why I Paintball. And just that simple question, like, why paintball? Why do you keep coming back to it after all these years? What drives it for you?
Well, what's that saying? Just when you think you're out, they suck you back in.
Yeah.
It's just because of my life and the stuff like my wife, we do real estate, and we do concerts and the booking agency. I have a lot of free time. I really do. So I spend a lot with my wife, and I'm bored. I'm bored, and I don't feel like paintball has given me so much. I still feel like the tank is full for me to give back to paintball, because I don't feel like I've given enough back yet. So I want to continue to do that as much as I possibly can in a positive manner, no matter what it is. And I want to give it, I want to leave it all in the field, so to speak. Like everything that I've gotten, I want to give back, and I want to leave it all there for somebody else to kind of take and hopefully, learn from. If I can keep people from making the same mistakes I have, not just with paintball, in life in general, because you can't get to be this age without messing everything up at one time or another, And I mean, there's friends in my life. Oh, I'm getting a divorce. I'm gonna call me. I've never been in that position, but I can give them some advice. I can listen, because a lot of those guys just need somebody to listen to them, because they don't have anybody. And I don't mind. We could talk about anything. It doesn't have to be paintball. Yeah. And I tell a lot of people that all the time. It's like, you can call me for anything. Yeah. And perfect example. And then it might be too early to bring this up, but look at like the Bobby Avilas, great friend of mine, Jerry Caro. I mean, there's people behind the scenes. People are going through things that they'll come smile on your face, and they'll come play paintball, and they'll get their aggression out, and then they go home back to their regular lives. You don't know what's going on back at their life. And that's why I used to be the first person to jump into an argument and want to fight or want to say something in derogatory, or just put a person down and bury it. But as I got older, people were doing it to me, and I would flip out and I'd get in fights. And And I thought to myself, as like, well, I don't know what that person is going through. I don't know what kind of day.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on at home life. I don't know anything about this person besides what's in front of me. So I tend to take a step back, and as I got older, I tend to think outside the box, thinking maybe this guy's having a bad day, and I try to take the smile approach and just make happy thoughts and not talk about paintball, just talk about shit they want to talk about.
Yeah.
But people are having problems, and people have to know we're all friends here. Yeah. You can call those people, and there's people to talk to if you have to. We don't have to talk about paintball. What's going on with you? I can just make you laugh, say some stupid things, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's just, I think more people need to do that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You mentioned him earlier, and he's such a dear friend of mine. But Ryan Gray and I have a beautiful relationship that we've started over the past few years, and he said something to me a few years ago, and it still resonates. Where he'll ask like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And you get the typical like, "Oh, I'm good." And he's like, "No, like, how are you really doing?"
Yep, he is that way too. 100%.
Yeah, and it's those type of questions where you realize like, wow, like you're actually, you care about me, and just having somebody like that will just it helps so many people. So the fact that you're able to give that back is beautiful. And then speaking of some old timers, he's gonna kill me for saying old timer, but I had Gerald Garcia call me the other day.
He's like 70.
I know, and he still plays too.
I know. I saw him in Texas.
Yeah. I had him on the show about a month ago, and since that conversation, I challenged him. I was like, "Hey, you got to call Bob Long, and like reconnect that fire with him." And they've had beautiful conversations where they both were on the phone in tears with each other, just from opening up and talking about things other than paintball, just being there for each other.
Yep, and that means a lot. We have that kind of banter because, listen. When we see each other at a tournament, we'll talk about anything to any of our friends because because they actually care.
Yeah.
And Gerald, he's a kind individual. Oh. He's just. I tried to get him for AC because Shock wasn't going, but it was too little, too late. I mean, that kid, he still got it, man.
He does. I love him so much.
He doesn't age either. He's like another Shane Howe.
Yeah.
Or in Ryan Greenspan. I just want to walk up and punch every one of those. Give him a nice little heater. It's like, just, you guys are getting older, but they don't look any different, man. They look great.
They don't.
So, I mean, I think all of us in paintball actually look pretty good for our age.
Totally. Yeah.
He's just young. We're pickled, I think, or something. I don't know what's going
on. Yeah. I always joke, like, people give me crap about like having, white in my beard. I'm like, listen, if I didn't have paintball, it would be even whiter. So like, enjoy it,
Yeah, exactly. My wife likes the salt and pepper.
Yeah. It adds a little bit of wisdom to it.
Let's not get carried away, but yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah. Hey, I've always ended my episodes with a really cool way to tie in guests with each other. And it's so cool. Like last week, the episode I had was with Jonah Jamrose of Infamous, and
him and his father are huge supports.
Oh my gosh.
His dad's amazing. I love his dad too. He's great.
Yeah, and like what a cool opportunity for his dad to be able to like travel around with him and be in the pits to like watch your son. Like unreal.
And that kid's talented too, man.
He is. And so he left a question for you, not knowing you were going to be on the show. So it's really cool that like there's an Infamous tie there.
Yep.
His question for you is there a pivotal moment that you can identify that led you to where you are now?
Oh, man, that's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a difficult question because I've been in it for so long, and I was there in his infancy. There was no pro, no amateur.
Yeah.
I mean, oil-based paint. We had cigar tubes, for God's sake. I mean, nobody knew. My dad was like, "Oh, you're never going to amount to anything," and blah blah blah. I was like, "I'll show you." Yeah. In the military, and it's. I guess the aha. This is something that's going to be grand moment for me was, I think, when WDP sponsored me and I did my own the first private label gun out there.
Yeah.
With my Angel, my Elements. Yeah. And then people started offering me money, like JT's, John Gregory offered me. It was $5,000 a year but back then, $5,000 a year cash.
Oh, gosh.
That was instant. I'm like, nobody does that. So Rocky and I both got that deal actually through JT.
Wow.
And then more sponsors came on, and people were giving me money to put a sticker on my loader. People were giving me money to drink their energy drink.
Yeah.
I mean, money was just falling out of the sky. And I was like, I didn't quite know how to handle it. I was like, what is going on and why? Because I didn't know why. People ask me, what did you do to get so good? Or what, they'll bring up a certain game from 10 years ago. I can't remember last week. And they're bringing up details like specifics.
Yeah.
And, but when all the sponsorships started coming in and, the magazines and then this and stuff like this, and then the people coming up for my autograph, that was the turning point. I was like, man, this is something else. And this is back when paintball was in its infancy.
Yeah.
And now, we grew throughout the years. I mean, 2008 sucked. It really did. For paintball and financial aspects of financial paintball. But, it was just, I'm traveling the world doing what? Getting paid to do so, and I'm not pulling a penny out of my pocket. That was the aha moment. I'm like, this is absolutely insane. So that was my aha moment, that this is going to be something great. I didn't think it would last this long. But, and I, as you said, I've gone for a little bit, and now why am I back? Because I have so much to give now. And, my thought process is a lot more refined, as opposed to just being everywhere at once, all those people around. So that's probably the aha moment for me, is like, man, this is going to be great.
It almost sounds like, not that it's necessarily imposter syndrome, but it legitimized it for you, where you could say like, wow, I'm actually getting paid to do this hobby, this crazy sport that no one knows about.
Right. Yeah, no, it was, I mean, I used to break guns, walk into the booth and grab another one. I mean, that was just unheard of.
A whole
it's kind of unheard of today. It's unheard of now, but but it's like, it just the whole rock star persona thing. Yeah. It was so different back then. And it was like a rock star. Like there was people overseas in England that would wear groupie shirts with my name on it. And I'd have a groupie section. It was the weirdest thing, man. It was just the weirdest thing. And I mean, I just didn't get it.
It's so surreal.
I still don't get it, but it's funny to laugh back at.
Yeah, it's part of your legacy. It's part of what you created.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, and coming up new players, you got to think about this. You create something for yourself, but the people around you create it for everybody else as well. Yeah. So you got to keep that in mind, that you're not the only person making this happen, because without the Pro DNAs and the Vulcans and the Virtues and the Planet Eclipses, or you guys, even yourself, doing these videos, Pat Spores doing and Brian Bonini doing the push video. Yep. All the Dirter guys, those guys had a huge influence on me getting to where I was, because without those videos or the magazines that I'm in, my persona or I wouldn't be at the level I was. Yeah. Getting paid what I was. I was getting paid per picture in magazines. Or if I was in the video and I mentioned these sponsors, they were going to give me $1,000 per mention. It was just unheard of. I mean, wow. But without those outlets like yourself, that wouldn't have been possible. So if you think you're going to go out there and do it yourself, you're absolutely mistaken. Yeah. Yes, you can be the person that they want you to be, but you also have to have the assets behind you and the support system like I had, thank God. Yeah. To get over that hump and make you that superstar that you are. So you can't do it alone. You need people, and the team. Yeah. The team matters. Like Travis and LB and Brandon. I couldn't have done half the crap I was doing by myself up in the. I'd run on the field because everybody's worried about those guys. But if with those guys, take those guys out of the equation, I get blown to pieces every time, and I'm a nobody. Yeah. So definitely got to think. Don't think it's all about you, youngsters. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that are your support system as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful advice. So like, treat your media people and your sponsors with as much respect as you can.
100%. Because I made that mistake of not doing that exactly. Yeah. I mean, but I didn't care back then either. I was a total asshole. So
times have changed.
Oh yes, yeah. I'm definitely a PG version of myself.
Yeah. So Chris, you have the opportunity now to ask next week's guest a question without even knowing who it is.
You know, I wrote it down. I know I sent it to you. I better double check that. See what I said. Because I forgot what I wrote you. Oh yeah, there it is. This is good. It says, I said, why? Pretty much why do you do what you do?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I back in the day, we used to shy away from what do you do for a living conversations. I think me and Brian Fow and Travis came up with we raced jet skis for a living. That was popular back then.
Yeah.
So it just makes the conversation a lot easier, because the minute you say paintball, it's a 20-minute conversation with somebody you don't even want to talk to.
Yeah.
Why do you do it? Is what drives you to do it, and what do you personally hope to achieve to make the sport we all know, love better?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I love it. That's such a good question. It'll just go in so many different directions depending on how the person takes it.
Yeah. It's what do you plan on doing to take your legacy and to take what you're doing and transfer it to the community and make the whole thing better as a whole.
Yeah.
When you're gone and the next, you know, Sam comes up, or the next insert any name here comes up.
Exactly.
You know? So that's what I would say.
Beautiful. What a great way to end the episode.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Chris, well, man, I can't wait to see you at the next event and give you a huge hug. I'm so glad we finally got a time to sit down and talk, get you on the show, because it's been long coming.
Well, I've been wanting to. I was like, man, he passed me up again. I guess. I mean, if I was like a 25-year-old Chris Lasoya, I might have been in there a little quicker.
No way. I've been trying to get you on.
I'm just giving you a hard time. But Dan, I love you too, buddy. I appreciate everything you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And, you know, without you, this sport could not be where it's at, and everybody like you as well. So I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart as well.
That means so much. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And yeah, so to everyone else tuning in on, you know, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Shellda podcast, and we'll catch you next time.
Sounds great. MyProPeptides.com. Don't forget, Lasoya 69.
10%.
Later, boys. Later, buddy.